When someone hurts you, betrays your trust, humiliates you, or treats you unfairly, the first instinct is often revenge. You want them to feel the same pain they caused. You want justice immediately. But here's what many people discover too late. Revenge often delays karma rather than speeding it up. The fastest way for karma to reach someone is not through obsession, retaliation, or constant anger. It's through actions that expose the natural consequences of their behavior. Here are powerful ways to make karma catch up faster with someone who hurt you. 1. Stop protecting them from consequences. One of the biggest reasons some people continue hurting others is because someone is always protecting them from the consequences of their actions. Whether they realize it or not, many victims become part of a cycle that allows toxic behavior to continue. They cover for the person, make excuses for them, minimize what happened, or stay silent when the truth needs to be acknowledged. In doing so, they unintentionally shield that person from the very lessons life is trying to teach them. When someone repeatedly lies, manipulates, betrays trust, or mistreats people, they should naturally experience the results of those choices. Relationships become damaged, trust disappears, opportunities are lost, respect declines. These are normal consequences that help people understand the impact of their behavior. But when others constantly step in to soften those consequences, the person never feels the full weight of what they have done. Imagine someone who constantly arrives late, breaks promises, and treats others poorly. If friends keep making excuses for them, co-workers keep covering their responsibilities, and family members keep defending them, they learn an unfortunate lesson. They can continue behaving this way without paying a price. Their actions are rewarded instead of corrected. This doesn't mean you need to become vindictive or seek revenge. In fact, revenge often distracts from the real issue. The goal is not to punish someone. The goal is to stop rescuing them from the outcomes they created themselves. Many people struggle with this because they are compassionate. They don't want to see others fail. They don't want conflict. They hope the person will change if they are given one more chance, and then another, and another after that. Unfortunately, some people only change when continuing their behavior becomes more uncomfortable than changing it. Every time you make an excuse for someone who hurt you, you delay that moment of realization. Every time you hide the truth to protect their image, you help maintain the illusion that their actions are acceptable. Every time you absorb the damage while pretending everything is fine, you remove an important signal that something is wrong. This is especially common in toxic relationships. A person may repeatedly disrespect boundaries, yet their partner keeps forgiving without requiring accountability. They may apologize with words, but never change their actions. Because there are no meaningful consequences, the cycle repeats itself. The behavior continues because it works. Stopping this pattern requires courage. It means allowing reality to take its natural course. If someone damages trust, let them experience what it means to lose trust. If they hurt people, let others make their own judgments based on what they see. If they fail to meet responsibilities, stop rushing in to save them from every problem that follows. Notice that this is very different from revenge. Revenge tries to create consequences. Accountability allows existing consequences to happen naturally. One is driven by anger. The other is driven by respect for reality. Another reason people protect those who hurt them is fear. They fear confrontation. They fear being called selfish, bitter, or unforgiving. They fear losing the relationship altogether. But protecting someone from consequences often comes at a hidden cost: your own peace, self-respect, and emotional well-being. The longer you carry the burden of someone else's choices, the heavier it becomes. You start feeling responsible for problems you didn't create. You become exhausted trying to manage situations that were never yours to fix. Over time, resentment grows because you are paying a price that belongs to someone else. Healthy accountability changes that. It returns responsibility to the person who earned it. Their choices become their responsibility. Their future becomes their responsibility. What often surprises people is that once they stop protecting a toxic person, the truth begins revealing itself much faster. Others start noticing patterns they previously missed. Excuses become harder to maintain. Contradictions become more obvious. The image that was carefully protected begins to crack under the weight of reality. This is one reason karma seems to move faster when you stop intervening. It isn't that you're making anything happen, it's that you're no longer preventing it from happening. Life has a way of teaching lessons that people refuse to learn voluntarily, but those lessons can only arrive when others stop standing between a person and the consequences of their actions. If someone hurt you, one of the most powerful things you can do is stop carrying responsibilities that belong to them. Stop explaining away their behavior. Stop rescuing them from every mistake. Stop sacrificing your well-being to preserve their comfort. Allow reality to do what it was always meant to do. Because the moment you stop protecting someone from the consequences they created, you stop delaying the very karma that may eventually help them face the truth. 2. Keep records when necessary. One of the most frustrating experiences in life is being hurt by someone who refuses to take responsibility for what they have done. Instead of admitting their actions, they deny them. Instead of telling the truth, they change the story. Instead of accepting accountability, they try to make you look like the problem. This is why keeping records can be one of the smartest and most powerful things you do when dealing with certain people. Many people think documentation is about revenge. It isn't. Documentation is about clarity. It is about protecting yourself from confusion, manipulation, and false narratives. When someone has a pattern of twisting facts, denying conversations, or rewriting history, relying solely on memory can become exhausting. Keeping records allows reality to remain visible even when someone tries to distort it. This is especially important in situations involving workplace conflicts, business agreements, legal matters, financial disputes, harassment, or ongoing patterns of toxic behavior. In these situations, facts matter, evidence matters, details matter. Emotions alone are rarely enough to establish the truth. People who regularly hurt others often depend on one powerful advantage. They assume nobody is paying attention. They believe conversations will be forgotten. They assume promises will disappear. They expect their contradictions to go unnoticed. When there is no record of what happened, they can often create whatever version of events benefits them most. That is why keeping records can accelerate accountability. It removes the fog. It replaces arguments with facts. Imagine someone who constantly makes promises and then denies making them later. Without documentation, every disagreement turns into a debate about memory. One person says something happened, while the other insists it never did. The discussion goes in circles. Nothing gets resolved. But when there is a written message, an email, a documented agreement, or a clear timeline, reality becomes much harder to deny. The conversation shifts from opinions to evidence. This doesn't mean you should become obsessed with collecting proof of every small interaction. Healthy relationships do not require constant documentation. Trustworthy people generally communicate honestly and take responsibility when mistakes happen. The need for extensive records often arises when someone repeatedly demonstrates a lack of honesty or accountability. Another benefit of documentation is that it protects your own mind. Manipulative people often engage in behavior that causes confusion. They may tell you one thing today and another thing tomorrow. They may deny things they clearly said. They may insist events happened differently than they actually did. Over time, this can create self-doubt. You begin questioning yourself. Did that conversation really happen? Did they actually say that? Am I remembering it correctly? This uncertainty can be emotionally exhausting. Records help eliminate that confusion. They provide an objective reference point when emotions and manipulation attempt to blur reality. There is another reason this matters when it comes to karma and consequences. Accountability requires truth. The more accurately reality is preserved, the harder it becomes for harmful behavior to remain hidden. Many people who hurt others rely on secrecy. They rely on situations where their actions cannot be verified. They count on people staying silent or forgetting details over time. Documentation quietly removes that advantage. In professional settings, this can be particularly important. If someone is creating problems, making false accusations, violating agreements, or engaging in inappropriate conduct, detailed records often become the difference between being believed and being dismissed. Facts create credibility. The key is to approach documentation calmly and professionally. Do not collect records out of hatred. Do not become consumed by proving someone wrong. Instead, view it as a form of self-protection. You are preserving reality. You are protecting your interests. You are ensuring that facts remain available if they become necessary. What often surprises people is that simply knowing records exist can change behavior. Individuals who are careless with the truth tend to become much more cautious when they realize their actions are being documented. Accountability becomes more difficult to avoid. Of course, not every situation requires evidence or files. Sometimes the healthiest choice is simply to walk away and move forward. But when significant responsibilities, reputations, finances, careers, or personal safety are involved, keeping records is often an act of wisdom rather than suspicion. The goal is not to trap someone. The goal is not to win an argument. The goal is not to seek revenge. The goal is to ensure that reality remains visible. When someone has hurt you, one of the most powerful things you can do is stay grounded in facts. Facts do not need to shout. Facts do not need to exaggerate. Facts do not need emotional speeches to be effective. They simply exist. And over time, reality has a remarkable way of exposing what manipulation tries to hide. That is why keeping records, when necessary, can help karma catch up faster. Not because you are forcing consequences to happen, but because you are removing opportunities for deception to delay them. When truth is preserved, accountability becomes much harder to escape. And when accountability becomes unavoidable, the consequences of a person's actions often begin catching up with them naturally. 3. Forgive without reconnecting. One of the biggest misconceptions about forgiveness is the belief that it requires reconciliation. Many people think that if they forgive someone who hurt them, they must welcome that person back into their life and restore the relationship. Because of this misunderstanding, they resist forgiveness altogether. They fear that forgiving means forgetting what happened or giving someone another chance to hurt them. But forgiveness and reconnection are not the same thing. Forgiveness is something you do for your own peace. Reconnection is something that must be earned through trust, accountability, and consistent change. One can happen without the other. This distinction is important when dealing with people who have caused serious emotional pain. Some individuals genuinely take responsibility for their actions and work to change. In those cases, rebuilding trust may be possible, but many others continue the same harmful patterns. They may apologize, but their behavior never improves. They want access to you without accountability. That is where many people get trapped. They believe they are being kind by giving endless chances. But what often happens is that the cycle repeats itself. The same disrespect returns. The same manipulation appears. The same wounds are reopened. Healthy forgiveness works differently. Forgiveness does not erase wisdom. Forgiveness does not require trust. Forgiveness does not eliminate boundaries. It simply means you stop carrying the burden of resentment and revenge. You stop replaying the hurt every day. You stop waiting for an apology before allowing yourself to move forward. In other words, forgiveness releases the emotional debt. but it does not erase the lesson. Someone can be forgiven and still lose access to your life. Someone can be forgiven and still face consequences. Someone can be forgiven and still be held accountable. Many toxic people dislike this kind of forgiveness because it removes their power. They often expect either endless anger or complete surrender. They know how to deal with both. What they struggle with is calm detachment. They struggle when you no longer seek revenge, but also refuse to tolerate further mistreatment. They struggle when you wish them well, but keep your boundaries intact. They struggle when they realize they no longer control your emotions. This is one reason forgiveness can help karma catch up faster. As long as you remain consumed by resentment, part of your attention remains focused on them. The emotional connection continues, even if it is negative. But when you genuinely forgive and move forward, you stop interfering with the natural consequences of their behavior. You stop chasing them. You stop arguing with them. You stop trying to force them to understand the pain they caused. You allow life to become their teacher. That is often more powerful than any confrontation. Another benefit of forgiving without reconnecting is that it protects your future. Hurt has a way of following people into new relationships and opportunities. Forgiveness helps prevent one person's actions from affecting every area of your life. This does not mean the process is easy. Some wounds take time to heal. Some betrayals leave lasting scars. Forgiveness is often a gradual decision, repeated over and over again. Each time anger resurfaces, you choose not to feed it. Each time painful memories return, you choose not to let them control your future. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The person who once had tremendous power over your emotions loses that power. Their choices no longer dictate your mood. Their approval no longer matters. Their absence no longer feels like a wound. And that is one of the clearest signs that healing has occurred. The goal of forgiveness is not to free the other person from responsibility. It is to free yourself from carrying the weight of what they did. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself. You can forgive someone and still decide they no longer belong in your life. Sometimes the healthiest form of forgiveness comes with distance, because forgiveness is about peace, not access. It is about freedom, not reconciliation. And when you learn to forgive without reconnecting, you release the burden, keep the lesson, and allow reality to handle the rest. That is often when karma begins doing its work most effectively, when you are no longer standing in its way. 4. Focus on your own success. When someone hurts you, betrays you, rejects you, or tries to bring you down, it's natural to want them to see what they did wrong. Part of you may hope they regret their actions. You may imagine the day they finally realize the value they lost or the damage they caused. But there is a problem with making that your focus. The more attention you give to proving something to the person who hurt you, the more control they continue to have over your life. Your happiness becomes tied to their reaction. Your progress becomes connected to their opinion. Even your goals can become centered around someone who no longer deserves that much space in your mind. This is why one of the most powerful ways to make karma catch up faster is to focus on your own success. Success does something that arguments never can. It creates undeniable evidence that you were not destroyed by what happened. It proves that your future is bigger than the pain someone caused you. Many people who hurt others expect a certain outcome. They expect you to remain stuck. They expect you to stay angry, discouraged, insecure, or obsessed with what they did. In some cases, they gain satisfaction from believing they still affect your emotions long after the relationship or conflict has ended. Nothing disrupts that expectation more than seeing you grow. When you focus on improving your life, you shift your energy away from the past and toward the future. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" you begin asking, "What can I build from here?" That question changes everything. Success doesn't always mean money, fame, or status. Sometimes success means healing emotionally. Sometimes it means building healthier relationships. Sometimes it means developing confidence, learning new skills, improving your health, or creating a peaceful life that no longer revolves around drama. The form of success matters less than the direction. Every step forward weakens the hold that the past has on you. One reason this works so powerfully is because toxic people often expect their actions to define your story. They expect to become the main character in your life. They expect the pain they caused to remain your central focus. But when you pursue your goals, they become a chapter rather than the entire book. Your growth begins creating a future that has nothing to do with them. Over time, this becomes a form of karma in itself. The person who tried to discourage you sees that you kept moving. The person who underestimated you sees that you developed strengths they never expected. The person who thought they could break your confidence sees that you became stronger because of the challenge, not because you were trying to prove them wrong, but because you were focused on becoming better. That distinction matters. Success driven by revenge often feels empty. You spend years chasing achievements, hoping someone else will notice. Even if they do, the satisfaction rarely lasts. Success driven by personal growth is different. It belongs to you regardless of who is watching. It improves your life whether the other person ever sees it or not. Another reason focusing on your own success accelerates karma is that it removes your attention from monitoring the other person's life. Many people become trapped in a cycle of constantly checking whether someone is suffering, failing, or finally facing consequences. This keeps them emotionally connected to the very person they want to move beyond. Meanwhile, life continues passing by. The irony is that the less you focus on the other person's downfall, the faster your own life improves. And as your life improves, their influence naturally decreases. You begin noticing opportunities instead of old wounds. You begin building confidence instead of collecting resentments. You begin creating a future instead of reliving a past. This is often when people experience a surprising realization. The revenge they once wanted no longer feels important. The apology they desperately needed no longer seems necessary. The validation they once chased no longer determines their self-worth. They become too busy building a meaningful life to spend energy dwelling on someone else's mistakes. That is real freedom. It doesn't mean what happened was acceptable. It doesn't mean the hurt wasn't real. It simply means you have chosen not to let another person's actions control the direction of your future. In many cases, the greatest consequence for someone who hurt you is seeing that they failed to stop you. They failed to define you. They failed to destroy your confidence. They failed to keep you trapped in the past. Your success becomes proof that their actions did not have the final word. So if someone has hurt you, invest your energy where it produces the greatest return. Learn new skills, improve your health, build meaningful relationships, pursue goals that matter to you. Create a life that reflects your values and potential, because the more focused you become on your own growth, the less power the past has over you. And when your attention is fully invested in building a better future, karma often takes care of the rest without your involvement. Sometimes the most powerful response to being hurt is not getting even, it's thriving anyway. 5. Surround yourself with better people. One of the most damaging effects of being hurt by someone is that it can distort your view of relationships. After a betrayal, a manipulation, or a painful disappointment, it becomes easy to assume that everyone is the same. You become more cautious, more suspicious, and sometimes more isolated. While those reactions are understandable, they can also keep you stuck in the shadow of what happened. One of the fastest ways to move forward, and one of the most powerful ways to let karma catch up with someone who hurt you, is to surround yourself with better people. The people around you influence far more than you realize. They affect your confidence, your perspective, your habits, and even your expectations of what is normal. If you spend enough time around dishonest, selfish, or negative individuals, you can begin accepting behavior that should never be tolerated. Toxicity starts to feel familiar. That is why healthy relationships are so important. Good people remind you that respect exists. They remind you that honesty exists. They remind you that support, loyalty, and kindness are not unrealistic expectations. When someone has hurt you, there is often a temptation to focus entirely on that person. You replay conversations, analyze their motives, and wonder why they treated you the way they did. But every hour spent obsessing over one toxic individual is an hour not invested in people who genuinely value you. The truth is that your future will be shaped far more by the people you choose to keep around you than by the people who hurt you in the past. Healthy relationships create perspective. They help you recognize behaviors that once seemed normal but were actually unhealthy. They show you what mutual respect looks like. They demonstrate that real friendships and meaningful connections do not require constant drama, manipulation, or emotional exhaustion. This is one reason toxic people often dislike seeing their former targets build strong support systems. Isolation makes manipulation easier. Confidence makes it harder. When you are surrounded by people who encourage your growth, it becomes much more difficult for someone to control you through guilt, fear, or emotional pressure. You begin trusting your own judgment. You become less dependent on the approval of those who mistreat you. Another benefit of surrounding yourself with better people is that it accelerates healing. Pain tends to grow in isolation. When you are alone with your thoughts, problems often seem larger than they are. But supportive people can offer encouragement, wisdom, and perspective that help you move forward. They remind you that one person's behavior does not define your worth. They remind you that someone else's choices are not a reflection of your value. They remind you that your story is bigger than a single painful experience. Over time, something interesting happens. The person who once occupied so much of your attention begins to matter less. Not because you forced yourself to forget them, but because your life became filled with healthier relationships and more meaningful experiences. Your focus naturally shifts. You stop looking backward all the time. You stop measuring your happiness by what they are doing. You stop waiting for them to change. Instead, you become invested in people who are already bringing positivity into your life. This is also where karma often begins working quietly. People who consistently hurt others frequently struggle to maintain strong, healthy relationships. Their patterns eventually catch up with them. Trust becomes harder to earn. Genuine connections become harder to keep. Meanwhile, you are building something stronger. You are creating a network of people who respect you, support you, and contribute positively to your life. That contrast often becomes a consequence all by itself. The goal is not to make someone jealous or prove anything to them. The goal is to create an environment where growth becomes easier and toxicity becomes easier to recognize. Choose people who celebrate your success instead of competing with it. Choose people who communicate honestly instead of playing games. Choose people who respect your boundaries instead of testing them. Choose people who bring peace more often than chaos. The quality of your relationships has a tremendous impact on the quality of your life. If someone hurt you, don't spend all your energy trying to understand why they acted the way they did. Spend that energy finding and nurturing relationships with people who demonstrate the qualities you value. Because one of the most powerful ways to move beyond pain is to experience healthier connections that remind you what you deserve. And when your life is filled with better people, the influence of those who hurt you naturally begins to fade. That is when healing becomes easier, growth becomes faster, and karma is free to do its work without your attention being trapped in the past. 6. Become unreachable. One of the most powerful things you can do after someone hurts you is become emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically unreachable to them. This doesn't mean hiding from the world or living in fear. It means refusing to give continued access to someone who has repeatedly shown they cannot be trusted with it. Many people who hurt others expect to maintain some level of influence over their victims. Even after the relationship ends, they often assume they can still get a reaction, restart old arguments, trigger emotional responses, or reappear whenever it suits them. They believe the door will always remain open. That is why becoming unreachable can be so powerful. It changes the dynamic completely. When someone can no longer access your attention whenever they want, they lose one of the things they often valued most: control. For many people, the hardest part is understanding that access is a privilege, not a right. Just because someone was once important in your life does not mean they are entitled to remain there forever. Relationships are built on trust, respect, and mutual effort. When those foundations are repeatedly damaged, continued access is not automatically deserved. Yet many people continue giving access long after it has become unhealthy. They answer every message, they engage in every argument, they explain themselves repeatedly, they keep reopening conversations that should have ended months or even years ago. As a result, the person who hurt them never fully experiences the consequences of losing the relationship. Becoming unreachable changes that. It means no longer making yourself available for unnecessary conflict. It means refusing to participate in endless cycles of manipulation. It means protecting your peace instead of constantly defending it. This doesn't require hostility. In fact, it is often most effective when done calmly and without drama. You do not need dramatic announcements. You do not need long speeches explaining your decision. You simply begin placing your energy where it belongs and stop offering unlimited access to someone who misused it. One reason this accelerates karma is that it forces people to confront reality. As long as they can easily return whenever they want, they may never fully appreciate what they lost. They may assume your patience is endless. They may believe there will always be another chance. But when the door genuinely closes, the situation becomes real. The conversations stop. The emotional support disappears. The opportunities they once took for granted are gone. For the first time, they may have to live with the consequences of their choices rather than relying on your willingness to overlook them. At the same time, becoming unreachable benefits you even more than it affects them. Constant access often keeps old wounds alive. Every unexpected message, every social media update, every unnecessary interaction can reopen emotions you are trying to heal from. It becomes difficult to move forward when the source of the pain continues appearing in your daily life. Distance creates clarity. Without constant contact, you begin seeing the situation more objectively. You recognize patterns that were harder to notice before. You gain perspective. You start realizing how much energy was being consumed by a relationship that no longer served your well-being. Over time, something important happens. You stop wondering what they think. You stop waiting for them to change. You stop needing their approval. You stop measuring your worth through their opinions. That is when real freedom begins. Many people assume power comes from winning arguments or getting the last word. In reality, one of the strongest forms of power is no longer needing to participate at all. Not every battle deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every person deserves continued access to your life. Sometimes the healthiest decision is to quietly move forward. This does not mean becoming bitter or shutting everyone out. Healthy relationships still require openness, trust, and connection. The goal is not isolation. The goal is discernment. You learn to reserve your time, energy, and attention for people who respect them. The more valuable something is, the more carefully it is protected. Your peace is valuable. Your time is valuable. Your emotional energy is valuable. Treat them that way. When someone has hurt you, becoming unreachable is not about punishing them. It is about protecting yourself. It is about recognizing that your healing matters more than their access. And often, the moment someone realizes they can no longer influence you, manipulate you, or rely on your availability, they are finally forced to face the reality of their own choices. That is why becoming unreachable can be one of the strongest ways to let karma do its work. You stop providing endless opportunities for someone to repeat the same behavior, and you start building a life where your peace is no longer dependent on their actions. Sometimes the greatest consequence for someone who hurt you is discovering that they no longer have a place in your future. 7. Stop chasing closure. One of the biggest mistakes people make after being hurt is believing that healing cannot begin until they get closure from the person who caused the pain. They tell themselves that they need one more conversation, one more explanation, one more apology, or one more chance to understand what happened before they can finally move on. Unfortunately, that moment often never comes. Many people spend months or even years waiting for answers that never arrive. They replay old conversations, analyze every detail, and imagine what they would say if they had one final opportunity to speak their mind. Meanwhile, the person who hurt them may have already moved on, leaving them trapped in a cycle of unanswered questions. The truth is that closure is often treated as something another person gives you, when in reality, it is usually something you create for yourself. This can be difficult to accept because uncertainty is uncomfortable. Human beings naturally want explanations. We want events to make sense. We want people to admit what they did. We want justice to be clear and obvious, but life doesn't always work that way. Some people will never apologize. Some people will never tell the truth. Some people will never fully acknowledge the damage they caused. And some people genuinely do not care how their actions affected others. If your peace depends on receiving understanding from such people, you place your healing in their hands. That is a dangerous position to be in. The more you chase closure from someone who refuses to provide it, the more power you give them over your emotional well-being. Your ability to move forward becomes dependent on their choices rather than your own. This is why stopping the pursuit of closure can be so liberating. It allows you to reclaim control. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this?" you begin asking, "What do I need to do to move forward?" Instead of waiting for them to explain themselves, you focus on understanding what the experience taught you. That shift changes everything. You stop treating healing as a future event that depends on someone else's behavior. You begin treating it as a decision that belongs to you. Ironically, many toxic people benefit when you continue chasing closure. Every conversation keeps the connection alive. Every attempt to get answers keeps them involved in your life. Even your frustration can become a form of attachment. As long as you need something from them, they still occupy space in your mind. But when you stop chasing explanations, the emotional bond begins to weaken. You accept that not every question will be answered. You accept that some people will never take responsibility. You accept that understanding their motives is not required for your recovery. This is often when karma starts working more effectively. Why? Because you stop interfering with your own healing. You stop spending energy trying to force awareness, guilt, or accountability into someone who may not be ready for it. Instead, you allow reality to handle what belongs to reality and focus your attention on what belongs to you, your growth, your peace, your future. Another important truth is that closure rarely comes from a perfect conversation. Even when people receive explanations, they often discover that the answers are unsatisfying. The pain doesn't disappear. The betrayal doesn't suddenly make sense. What creates lasting peace is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approving of what happened. It does not mean pretending it didn't hurt. It simply means recognizing that the past cannot be changed and choosing not to let it control your future. Over time, this mindset creates freedom. You stop waiting for the apology. You stop checking whether they regret their actions. You stop hoping they will finally understand what they did. Instead, you begin building a life that no longer depends on their participation. That is real closure. Not because all the questions were answered, but because the questions no longer control you. When someone hurts you, it is natural to want an explanation. It is natural to want accountability. But there comes a point where continuing to chase those things causes more suffering than the original event itself. At that point, the healthiest choice is often to let go. Not because they deserve forgiveness, not because they earned another chance, but because your peace is too valuable to remain tied to someone else's willingness to provide answers. The moment you stop chasing closure is often the moment healing truly begins. And when your attention is no longer trapped in the past, karma is free to work without your involvement, while you move forward toward a better future. 8. Set firm boundaries. One of the clearest signs of self-respect is the ability to set firm boundaries. Yet, after being hurt by someone, many people struggle to do exactly that. They continue tolerating behavior they know is harmful. They keep giving chances that have not been earned. They allow the same person to cross the same lines again and again, hoping that this time things will be different. Unfortunately, hope alone does not change behavior. Boundaries do. A boundary is not about controlling another person. It is not a threat, a punishment, or an attempt to force someone to act a certain way. A boundary is simply a decision about what you will and will not accept in your life. It is a line that protects your peace, your values, and your well-being. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear being seen as selfish, difficult, or unforgiving. They worry that saying no will upset others. They fear conflict. As a result, they remain silent while resentment slowly builds. The problem is that what you tolerate often continues. When someone repeatedly experiences no consequences for crossing your boundaries, they learn that the behavior is acceptable. They may not consciously think this way, but their actions reveal the lesson they have learned. If disrespect is constantly forgiven without change, disrespect becomes a habit. This is why firm boundaries are so important. They create clarity. They communicate what is acceptable and what is not. They help healthy people understand how to maintain a respectful relationship with you, and they reveal which people are unwilling to do so. In fact, boundaries are one of the fastest ways to expose someone's true character. People who genuinely respect you may not always like your boundaries, but they will usually respect them. They understand that every healthy relationship requires limits and mutual consideration. Toxic people often react differently. They may become angry. They may guilt-trip you. They may accuse you of changing. They may act as though your boundaries are the problem, rather than their behavior. This reaction often reveals more than any explanation ever could. When someone becomes upset because they can no longer take advantage of your time, energy, patience, or kindness, the issue is rarely the boundary itself. The issue is that they benefited from the lack of one. That is why boundaries can help karma catch up faster. They remove protection from unhealthy behavior. They force people to face the consequences of their actions. Instead of endlessly absorbing the impact of someone else's choices, you allow responsibility to return where it belongs. At the same time, boundaries protect your healing. Without boundaries, old wounds stay open. The same arguments continue. The same disappointments repeat. The same emotional exhaustion returns over and over. With boundaries, you create space for recovery. You stop allowing every problem to become your responsibility. You stop feeling obligated to fix people who do not want to change. You stop sacrificing your peace to keep others comfortable. Over time, this creates a profound shift in your life. You become more confident. You become more selective about who has access to your time and energy. You begin building relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. And perhaps most importantly, you stop teaching people that they can mistreat you without consequences. Many people think boundaries push others away. The truth is that boundaries often improve the quality of your relationships. They attract people who value respect and discourage those who depend on manipulation or control. Not everyone will like your boundaries. That is perfectly fine. Boundaries are not designed to make everyone happy. They are designed to protect what matters most: your peace, your self-respect, your emotional well-being. If someone hurt you, one of the most powerful things you can do is decide what behavior you will no longer tolerate. Then stand by that decision consistently. You do not need to argue endlessly. You do not need to justify yourself repeatedly. You do not need everyone to agree. You simply need to be clear and consistent, because every time you enforce a healthy boundary, you send a message to others and to yourself that your well-being matters. And when people are no longer allowed to repeatedly cross your limits without consequences, they are forced to face the reality of their choices. That is often where accountability begins. And accountability is one of the places where karma does its most effective work. 9. Refuse to participate in their drama. One of the most effective ways to make karma catch up with someone who hurt you is surprisingly simple. Stop participating in their drama. Many toxic people survive on conflict, confusion, and emotional reactions. They create problems, spread negativity, start arguments, and pull others into situations that drain energy and attention. Whether they realize it or not, drama often becomes a tool they use to maintain control, gain attention, or avoid accountability. The problem is that many people unknowingly become part of this cycle. They defend themselves against every accusation. They respond to every insult. They try to correct every lie. They get pulled into endless arguments that never actually solve anything. As a result, the drama continues because everyone involved keeps feeding it. What many people eventually discover is that some conflicts are not designed to be resolved. They are designed to be sustained. The goal is not understanding. The goal is not truth. The goal is simply to keep the emotional chaos alive. This is why refusing to participate can be so powerful. When you stop feeding drama, you remove one of its primary sources of energy. Think about a fire. A fire continues burning as long as fuel is added to it. Remove the fuel, and eventually the fire begins to die. Drama works in much the same way. It needs attention, emotional reactions, and constant engagement to survive. When you stop providing those things, the situation often changes dramatically. This does not mean becoming passive or allowing people to mistreat you. It does not mean avoiding important conversations or refusing to defend yourself when necessary. Instead, it means learning the difference between productive communication and pointless conflict. Productive communication seeks solutions. Drama seeks reactions. Productive communication aims to resolve problems. Drama aims to prolong them. Learning to recognize this difference can save you enormous amounts of emotional energy. Many people who enjoy creating drama become frustrated when they can no longer get the response they expect. They may increase their efforts at first. They may provoke, criticize, exaggerate, or attempt to draw you back into old patterns. This is often because the strategy that worked before is no longer producing results. The moment you stop reacting the way they expect, the dynamic begins to change. Instead of spending hours defending yourself, you focus on your own life. Instead of arguing over every false accusation, you let your actions speak for themselves. Instead of becoming trapped in endless emotional battles, you invest your energy into things that actually improve your future. That shift is incredibly powerful. One reason refusing drama helps karma catch up faster is that drama often acts as a distraction from accountability. As long as everyone is focused on the argument, nobody is focused on the actual behavior that created the problem. Chaos becomes a smokescreen. The real issues remain hidden behind endless conflict. But when you step away from the drama, the distractions begin to disappear. People are left to confront the reality of their actions without someone else constantly absorbing the emotional fallout. At the same time, your own life improves. Stress decreases, mental clarity increases, your emotional energy becomes available for more important things. You begin realizing how much time was previously being wasted on situations that produced no meaningful results. Over time, something interesting happens. You stop feeling the need to win every argument. You stop feeling the need to correct every misunderstanding. You stop feeling responsible for changing people who have no interest in changing themselves. Instead, you become focused on protecting your peace. That does not mean everyone will understand your decision. Some people may accuse you of being distant, cold, or unresponsive. Others may interpret your refusal to engage as weakness, but true strength is not found in winning every battle. Sometimes true strength is recognizing which battles are not worth fighting. Not every criticism deserves an answer. Not every provocation deserves a reaction. Not every conflict deserves your time. The people who create constant drama often expect unlimited access to your emotions. They expect to be able to pull you into chaos whenever they choose. When you stop participating, you take that power away. You become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to control, and that is often when the natural consequences of their behavior begin catching up with them. Because without your participation, the drama loses one of its favorite targets. The focus shifts back to the person creating the chaos. Their patterns become easier to see, their behavior becomes harder to excuse, and their actions begin speaking louder than any argument ever could. That is why refusing to participate in drama is not avoidance, it is wisdom. You stop wasting energy on battles that lead nowhere and start investing that energy into your own peace, growth, and future. And when you do that, karma is free to work without your help. 10. Remove your energy. One of the most underrated ways to make karma catch up with someone who hurt you is to remove your energy from their life. Many people think karma is something dramatic that happens to someone else. But often, the first consequence a toxic person experiences is losing access to the people who gave them attention, support, patience, forgiveness, and emotional investment. When someone hurts you, your instinct may be to fight back, explain yourself, prove them wrong, or make them understand what they did. While these reactions are natural, they also keep you emotionally connected to the person. Even negative attention is still attention. In many cases, the person continues benefiting from your energy long after they have lost the right to it. They occupy your thoughts. They influence your emotions. They control your focus. They become a central part of your daily mental life. The problem is that every minute spent obsessing over them is a minute of energy that could have been invested in yourself. This is why removing your energy is so powerful. It shifts your attention away from the person who hurt you and back toward your own life. Instead of wondering what they are doing, you focus on what you are building. Instead of monitoring their future, you start creating your own. Instead of carrying their actions around in your mind, you invest your energy in your goals, relationships, health, and personal growth. At first, this can feel difficult. You may still feel angry. You may still want answers. You may still imagine confrontations that never happen. But every time you choose not to feed those thoughts, you weaken their hold over you. Little by little, they begin losing access to your emotional resources. This is especially important because many toxic individuals thrive on reactions. They enjoy knowing they can affect your mood. They enjoy knowing you are still thinking about them. Sometimes the attention matters more to them than whether the attention is positive or negative. That is why indifference is often more powerful than anger. Anger still connects you to them. Obsession still connects you to them. Constantly talking about them still connects you to them. But indifference breaks the connection. When you remove your energy, you stop providing the emotional fuel that keeps the dynamic alive. You stop checking their social media. You stop asking mutual friends about them. You stop replaying old conversations. You stop trying to force justice to happen on your timeline. Instead, you redirect that energy into things that actually improve your life. This is where real healing begins. Many people are surprised by how much emotional energy they recover once they stop focusing on the person who hurt them. They sleep better. They think more clearly. They become more productive. They feel lighter. The burden begins to disappear. At the same time, the person who relied on your attention often notices the change, not because you announced it, not because you tried to make a point, but because your absence becomes impossible to ignore. The emotional support is gone. The reactions are gone. The opportunities to manipulate are gone. The access they once took for granted is gone. For the first time, they are left alone with the consequences of their own behavior. That is often where karma starts doing its work. Not because you forced anything to happen, but because you stopped preventing reality from taking its natural course. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they need to stay emotionally invested until justice arrives. In reality, your freedom begins when you stop waiting. You do not need to witness their downfall. You do not need to hear their apology. You do not need confirmation that they regret what they did. Your life can move forward without any of those things. And when it does, something remarkable happens. The person who once occupied your thoughts every day becomes less important. Their opinions lose influence. Their actions lose power. Their presence loses significance. Eventually, they become a lesson rather than a burden. That is why removing your energy is one of the most powerful responses to being hurt. You stop giving your attention to someone who wasted it. You stop investing your emotions where they are not valued. You stop carrying a weight that no longer belongs to you. And when your energy is fully invested in your own growth, peace, and future, karma is free to handle the rest without your involvement. If there's one thing to remember from this video, it's that karma works best when you stop trying to do its job for it. When someone hurts you, it's natural to want justice. It's natural to want answers, accountability, or even revenge. But the more you chase those things, the more energy you give to the very person you're trying to move beyond. Real power begins when you redirect that energy back to yourself. Stop protecting people from the consequences of their actions. Stop chasing closure that may never come. Stop participating in drama designed to keep you emotionally trapped. Set boundaries. Protect your peace. Surround yourself with better people. Focus on your own growth and become unreachable to those who repeatedly misuse your trust. The truth is, karma is often much quieter than people expect. It doesn't always arrive as a dramatic downfall. Sometimes it appears as lost trust, damaged relationships, missed opportunities, loneliness, or the gradual consequences of choices repeated over time. You don't have to force those consequences. You don't have to watch them happen. And you don't have to wait for them before moving forward. The greatest mistake you can make is putting your life on hold while hoping someone else learns a lesson. Your future is too important for that. Your peace is too valuable for that. Your happiness is too valuable for that. The moment you stop making your healing dependent on another person's actions is the moment you take your power back. And ironically, that's often when karma begins working the fastest. Because while they're dealing with the consequences of their choices, you're busy building a better life. A life filled with peace instead of resentment, growth instead of obsession, confidence instead of bitterness, and freedom instead of emotional chains. In the end, the best way to make karma catch up with someone who hurt you is not to chase them, it's to outgrow them. Let life handle what belongs to life, and focus on becoming the strongest, happiest, and most fulfilled version of yourself.